back. Thursday. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. This is Jordan with Conquer Trading and Investing, and we are getting ready to dig in. There's a lot to talk about today. We got a lot to talk about today. First, I'm going to start off, obviously, with just a recap of what happened yesterday between Jay Powell, between Mag 7 earnings, and between the Z and Trump summit. They bought the soybeans. They're buying the soybeans. They're buying a lot of soybeans, and markets here are on the back foot. We'll get into positioning as well. There's a lot going on all across the board. And I put something out there in there that this might be, or I think that this is, a trap. Listen, the bulls are running in the background. Guys, this is right here a breather. Markets pricing in mostly yesterday. All the things I spoke about, let's go ahead and dig into them. By the way, we're also going to do a bit of a Destiny Tech 100 and take a look at this over here. So we're going to put that all together, and I'm going to start over here with Jay Powell, right? Red all over the place, red all over the place. And Powell says the economy is growing about 1.6%. I think they're factoring in that mega negative GDP print. Right now, Atlanta Fed is showing an estimate of 3.9%. And a lot of this is largely, obviously, the mega AI boom, data center boom that is contributing to the GDP. And that's likely not going to stop for a long time. Anyway, let's just jump in over here and take a look at what's going on. Powell said yesterday that, listen, it's not a foregone conclusion that the December cut is going to happen. And he did a fantastic job in walking back expectations. It was called like a verbal jab. Boom. Powell came in with the uppercut. And it was such a smart play. Because otherwise, you have the markets just going from what was looking like, what is an incredible run up that's happening. By the way, Jay Cora, right into our resistance so far. You can see that right into our resistance so far. Coming back for a nice retest now. Hey, let's see if we hold that. That would be super bullish. If we don't hold that and we trade below this random line I got drawn on the chart, then likely we have a nicer, bigger correction coming down into here, right? Boom. That's what that I saw the tag in the discretionary, so I'm here. That's exactly that. We're trying to make sure that everyone's spirits are lifted and we bring the clarity and have some fun. Yesterday I had so much fun with you guys, whether or not it was the mic being off, classic CTM, and then at the end, I get a call. And I'm like on the call, and thank God the mic was off, but still recorded. And you gotta laugh, you gotta have fun, and then you gotta be super sharp and stay in front of it. Let's do all of that right now. Let's jump over and let's take a look at what's going on and let's get back into this whole Powell business. Powell set the expectations that it is potentially not an assured foregone conclusion that we're going to see another 25 basis points cut in December. The dot plots are still showing that, however, and Powell did say the only thing that would take that off the table would be their dual mandate, and if they saw what is a mega rebound in the job markets. Now, yesterday you saw, look at over here in the yesterday's probabilities, this got as high as 40%. So there was yesterday a 40% chance that they could be on pause into December, and then today you can see, and that's dropping back down towards 23, and the market's probably taking a look at that and they're saying, well, Powell said that in order for that to happen, we're going to need a really strong rebound in the job markets, and I think we're seeing signs of stabilization in the job market, and at the same time we're seeing those continued layoffs. And they're going to keep coming from the tech sector, no doubt. Middle management, it's going to, a lot more people are definitely losing their jobs, but we're not seeing like any type of dramatic like job loss, and it is stabilizing. And I suppose that's something that we're going to have to come, like that's a trend that's going to continue. And we'll get into this in 1 second. We'll have a lot of fun with it. Let me focus in on Jay Powell. What Jay Powell did say is that, listen, the government shut down. So that means, and I don't know, I thought it was going to be a lengthy shutdown. It looks like now that maybe that there's going to come to a resolution. And if they do, there's a good chance that we have some data coming at us relatively soon, depending on when that ends. And it's, if we don't have data, Powell gave us the two most important factors to watch going forward in next month. And he did say that, first of all, he wants us to know what the meeting minutes were going to look like. And he said in the meeting minutes, you're going to see like some people want to cut, some people don't want to cut. And there was like, toeing the line, doing their best to like, it doesn't matter what they're saying. It matters what they're doing. They cut. The dot plots show that they're likely going to cut in December. And outside of some type of surprise on the job ends, it doesn't look like that they're not going to get that cut in. Now, he did say that the beige book is really all they have to lean on as far as the state of the economy. The beige book release is November 26th at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So that becomes a red hot data point for us. Now, that's at the end of the month, right? So hopefully, with the government shutdown, everything seems to be working fine, but some people are about to lose further benefits, and it's not a joke. So anyway, that's something that we have to watch out for. As this is all happening, inflation keeps on ticking up, and it's happening without. This is probably coming from. Now that I think about it, I'm just thinking about it off the top of my head, so I could be wrong, but this is probably coming from a lot of people's utility costs. So I imagine that's what's happening over here. Someone doesn't believe me, that's fine. See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya. We're seeing inflation tick up, and that's without oil kicking up. And don't forget, I continue to watch what happens if oil does tick up. So I have over here the whole oil chart, and still under a lot of pressure. If we get a technical repair in place, then we have to watch to see. And if at any point we carry over here, then it's on, and that's likely becoming a bit of a problem if we were to see that. Now, jumping over here, and I just wanted to get into the Treasury General account. NVIDIA's earnings not for a while, right, Ace? NVIDIA's earnings are usually after earnings. So I'll check with you in 1 second on the NVIDIA chart. Now the NVIDIA, well, we're gonna get into that in a second as well. We're gonna get into, we have a lot. It's a kind of a fun session. Yeah, Bitcoin is tiring a lot of people. There's no doubt about it. We'll get into that too, right? And short the corn. Hopefully that means that we're about to reverse. A lot of people looking for us to see potentially some 5-digit Bitcoin. We'll put it all together. Hang in there. We got a lot to recap, summarize, and discuss before we can move forward. The Treasury General account has gone a little higher than my expectations. I estimated that they were going to refill it to 850 billion. They're now at 900 billion. And not only that, look at Besson is he's on the bid, throwing out mega offerings, and they continue to raise. They must feel that the market could handle it. I can't imagine what else. By the way, just to throw out for you, we do have Amazon and Apple today, and then of course MicroStrategy. Let's take a look at what happened over here. So we got a headline that Trump summit underwhelms, Mag 7 disappoints. Look, we're going to come to this in 1 second as well, actually. So I'm just going to throw it in now. OpenAI is talking about IPOing at a valuation of $1 trillion. Would you buy it? Yeah. Look, listen, OpenAI IPOs, it is for sure they're looking for some exit liquidity. But would you buy it? And I remember, and I have to tell you, the two worst investments that I ever made in my life were buying the Facebook IPO and the Google IPO, and then selling them shortly thereafter. the two worst investments I ever made in my life, because if I were just holding both of them today, that's the equivalent of buying Bitcoin cheap and holding it for 10, 20 years. No difference about that. I'm interested to hear from you guys though. Would you buy the IPO? Now, let's go back down and just we're doing a review. And I'm throwing a lot of stuff out there, and then we'll kind of go ahead and move forward. And this is what we're doing. So we had Alphabet. I can't stand the name. It's Google. Said that their capex for the year will be 91 to 93 billion dollars. Meta said that in 2026 that their spending will be notably larger. Nvidia must be so happy about all of this, right? And expects to spend as much as 72 billion. And Microsoft CEO, he reiterated, look, the company can't meet the current demand for AI and other services even after spending tens of $billions in recent quarters. Together spent $78 billion in the last quarter. Like, okay, well, the GDP is just coming from this spending by these mega cash cow giants. Yeah, it's contributing to a large portion of the GDP. What is the spending slowing down? Seems like it's increasing. What do you think about the GDP? Likely increase. Well, what about the weighting of these indexes? They're so heavy towards these mega tech giants. Likely going to continue. Will it end badly? We'll find out. That's what we're here for, to find out if it ends badly or the bubble hasn't even started. And bubbles, by the way, it's not usually a bubble when everyone out there who's been bearish for the last 3 years of the bull market is like, that's a bubble. It's usually a bubble by the time they capitulate and they jump in and they're like, I missed it, and everyone else is making buck, and I got to get in there. I would buy it and hold it as long as possible, right? Alexei's buying it. I want to hear a little bit more because it kind of builds into the conversation we're about to have in a little bit. Let's get it back over to what happened over here with Trump. So Trump confirms, by the way, they made a deal. The deal's not signed yet. We made a deal with China. The deal's not set. And it was largely just kicking the can down the road, except that they're buying a bunch of soybeans. So China is making a very strong goodwill gesture here. And supposedly, immediately, they're about to purchase some soybeans. So major problem if they don't. That would be an escalation if they don't buy the soybeans. Farmers here, Trump's happy for the farmers. Trump said that the rare earth issue has been settled and there are no more roadblocks on rare earths. Okay, so again, further things down the road. If we see for some reason the Chinese said they're buying soybeans and don't, that's a problem. If we find out that there's an issue with the rare earths, that's a problem. This agreement that they're making, that soon to be signed, is, extended out for basically a year. And that puts us right around the time of the midterm elections. Very calculated by the Chinese, because depending on who wins those midterm elections, it either gives the current administration like really strong posture, or it's made them a lame duck. And China knows that, and China's just going to wait for the next election. And then, this whole saga will go until there's a more favorable, let's say, opponent in the White House for them to kind of work with or against. So it looks like they're looking to sign the deal soon, and that's that. Well, hold on one second, Alexei. We're about to get into this in a second as well. You can't see it on the stand. I'll come back to that. What are we buying? You're not late. You're right on time. CTM's always on time. Let's take a look. All right. So let's jump back over to here. Where are we going, Jordan? First of all, NASDAQ daily chart put in what was almost a doji yesterday. So you had a lot of things happening yesterday, play by play. Markets, into the morning, very positive. Powell comes in and Powell says it's not a foregone conclusion that in December there'll be a cut. Powell with the verbal jab knocks markets off a little bit. In the past, 2022, Powell said something like that. Markets coming off 3-4%. Right now, they're just taking a breather. Yeah, you never know. That could become something more. This looks ugly. If you look at the top over here on the daily time frame, you got a lot left over here. After that, you saw the Mag 7 earnings. First of all, first initial reaction was Alphabet, boom. Then all of a sudden, Meta and Microsoft come in, bam. And then people are like, is it really as bad as I think? I'm not really sure. And you can see that indecision, that almost a doji. And then today, you could see, the China deal is going to be a good thing. Market's revving up. And then, boom, you know what? Not so much. And then I suppose people are like, Bitcoin is trading at $108,000. So it's a bear market. Bitcoin's trading at $108,000 and still holding the six figures. Listen, this is not bearish. This is really strong. Yes, we want to see this year, November, December, that those seasonalities take effect, and we want to see Bitcoin be able to hit a new all-time high. I want to see Bitcoin hit a new all-time high within the next 60 days for sure. But did anything happen? What like as far as the summit, was that bad news bears? No, it was unexciting. It was underwhelming. And it looks like that's fine. That it didn't become no one walked out of the hangar in anger. They met in like a military hangar. It was kind of cool. It was like from a movie. And no one walked out. No one, so I'm not forget that. They actually both tried to like put on a nice happy face and pretend they like each other and work together. And they bought the soybeans, and I thought that was a good signal. And it turns out that markets are not really interested in the soybeans. They want more substance. That's fine. We had the Mag 7 earnings. There was no red flags. Remember, that was, are they going to stop their spending going forward? They're increasing it. There was no red flags there. Okay. And what about Powell? Powell said they're stopping QT in December, which means that they're not as concerned about everyone else is about an imminent liquidity crisis. Otherwise, they would have stopped it already. And Fed is setting up to stop their trickle of QT, and the balance sheet is going to begin going the other way. And the arguments on X ensue. Is that QE or is that not QE? And what exactly does that mean? And they're just getting rid of the long duration. They're rolling that over into T-bills. That's no big deal. The balance sheet's going to begin rising. When the balance sheet begins rising, we're at like 2019, and we've been in 2019 for a long time. For like 18 months. Things sometimes take out a lot longer to play out than we would like, but that's okay. So here we are. And that was a little recap. Let's move over. Microsoft is short and into earnings. And we're kind of hedged nicely everywhere. So we're gonna get into our position, and that's most important. So yeah, I don't know if they were. My takeaway is that there was no warning shots fired, right? So we made it past that event. Ace, by the way, let me figure out over here what's going on. Is Bitcoin come in right now in accumulation zone? That's the question. That's the question. For me, yes. 105 was an accumulation zone. Would $80,000 is 80,000 Bitcoin coming? If 80,000 comes, do you think we are in a bear market, or you think that is an accumulation zone over here, over there? 1 year, we're getting close over here. Bitcoin, gold, silver, all neck and neck. Interesting. Let's take a look at what's going on. So Ethereum, Solana on the sidelines. Ethereum, by the way, from a TA perspective, looks like it is on the ledge. So we've done something like this, right? I forget how we looked at that. And it's all fuzzy to me. So I don't really see it. But this doesn't look good, right? Close below here does not look good, and obviously we're seeing weakness in crypto. Let me take a look at gold and silver so we can continue this conversation elsewhere. Just kind of getting things out of the way. Gold and silver both up, percent or two today. Why are they up? Usually you would think if, well, I don't know. For me, they're just chopping consolidation and they're out of play into the next year. We'll find out if that's right or wrong. I don't think that, anything is screaming, this is a place to, like a strong DCA place. But I personally think the whole range is going to be a place to DCA. So, over here, it's just a bounce and out of play. All right, get those out of the way. Moving over, and I wanted to check in really briefly on NVIDIA. So we'll start with NVIDIA, and then we'll work our way around. And it's going to go ahead and throw on the calendar over here when are our earnings, and I'm going to events, and I'm going to earnings, and there we go. So we have NVIDIA earnings over here at the end of November. By the way, Z and Trump discussing NVIDIA's and their chips, but it seems that Trump is saying that the good chips are off the table. China's not getting the good chips. So I'm sure Z's not happy about that. And that's the importance here of what's at stake. By the way, did you see that one thing that China's looking for, and China's saying, you know what? Well, if you remember when Russia and China had a summit and Putin flew out over to visit his friend. They had this deal, this energy deal, this pipeline coming from Russia to China. China wants energy. China's leading the way in the future of energy, whether or not it's the amount of nuclear power plants they're currently building and putting online, the amount of solar that they have online and continue to put online, whether or not it is the dirty coal they just burn because they want all of this stuff to kind of just go. Energy, energy, energy. And they're saying to the US, you know what? Let's talk about a pipeline coming from Alaska to China. We like that. We're all about that. And that would be interesting. That would be interesting. Trump loves selling energy. So that could be happening. But China is all about it. And the US is like, we're in this great AI race and we don't have the power. US looking to put on how many reactors? But so I saw Google, I can't call them Alphabet, made a deal with a offline power plant to get that online, and I think it was by 2028 they got to run their data centers. But the I think the U.S. is talking about 10 nuclear power plants. We'll call it by around 2030. I don't really know the timeline on that, but that's good. That's a step in the right direction. That's good. You can't get enough energy online, and they should follow Elon's idea about just putting in the desert as much solar panels as possible. Elon should be taken away from all the company he's run, and he should just be like the idea man, and every idea he comes up with, they just have to, like, this army of engineers just follow through on and have the Fed print the money to make these ideas happening. That's got to happen. So Nvidia is well out into here, currently holding open position in Nvidia. So we're short now on Cardano. Seems like a good hedge. 7% into profit. Bitcoin just going short now on 107, and it just went short, 56 minutes ago. Nvidia is currently holding open position and giving up some gains, but still into profit here, 7%. You're seeing FNGU, same thing, giving back a bunch of profit today, but still into profit. MicroStrategy is short, so there's the hedging going on. It's currently FNGU, NVIDIA holding the longs. By the way, IBIT was stopped out. IBIT took a stop loss over there, 1.7%, 1.8%, and sliced. MicroStrategy is short here coming into earnings. we'll see how that goes. I can't anyway. We'll see what happens over there. So we're hedged between big tech long and crypto short, and it seems right about now. And everyone's like, well, everyone's fell out of love with 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 Bitcoin, and it's all about big tech. And yeah, it is about big tech right now. There's no question about it, and there's every reason for it. But don't sleep on hard assets. Don't sleep on Bitcoin and gold. At the end of the day, the Fed is moving towards the next phase of their cycle, and things are getting tighter. So they're gonna have to stop QT, and they're gonna have to start becoming more accommodative. And then eventually, the Ponzi needs is gonna happen. Um, so there's our positioning, and we're just hedged. I can answer this from my own perspective. So the question is, why do many Western folks think so highly of Z? Think he's strategic and tech know-how. So I, I can only speak for myself and the world that I believe that I know. And I think if you're talking about Westerners or if you're talking about those from the U.S., I think it's I think it's largely like cut down the middle. Like the population is 50%, 50%. And that's probably not true. That's probably changed now. So, because it used to be 50% Republican, 50% Democrat. And now there's like an opening group in the middle. And I don't know what percentage of that, but there are some people who are like, we identify as neither and we're just moderate. Maybe we'll call it the Elon void. I don't know. So let's pretend it's 45-45, and I have no idea what and I would say that the like I think he's like Winnie the Pooh, right? If you ask me, what's the first word that comes to your mind when you think of President Z, I'll be Winnie the Pooh. And I don't think anything more of him than that whatsoever. He's just the leader of China. And does he make the decisions? I have no idea. I don't know anything about how that works. Did President Biden make any of the decisions? I don't think so, and I don't think that anyone who voted for him thinks that he was making the decisions. I think they thought his team was making the decisions, and they were fine with that. Do I think that President Trump is making the decisions? Yeah, I think he's making a lot of decisions, and I think that he also has a team that he's put in place that he values, and and by the way, that team is largely a lot like he's got Bobby. But Bobby's a Democrat. He's got what's her name? Tulsi. She's a Democrat. I mean, never seen anything like that before in my lifetime between reaching out. But I don't think that people. We'll look at no the drawdown on Cardano is massively better on V4. We'll look at that right now. I'm gonna move into that, but just want to finish here. I don't think that anyone thinks anything of Z. I think that most people think he's just Winnie the Pooh, and he represents China. That's all he represents China. So when people talk about, and I think a lot of people have a lot of respect for China in so much as that China is a powerhouse. It is, if there's any one country that is the greatest competitor to the United States, it is for sure China, right? And there we are. I think I don't want to get into politics. Most people are very political, so I can't get into that. Um, so what else? Oh, V4 I wanted to look at with you. So look at this. This is actually massive because we got shook out on. I gotta use. By the way, Bitcoin bull runs now looking a little bit better, just staying on the sidelines, waiting for the opportunity. We just got kind of shook out over here on the first short, and you can see the difference here. Guys, with incremental gains, like 2% here, 3% here, another 2, that the difference that has in compounding over 1 year, as well as over a period of time, is tremendous. 12% difference over 1 year, over 5 years has a dramatic compounding effect. Here you can see that Bitcoin is short, still holding that trade. Cardano is lesser. So we're short into a nice position, and Cardano here is just entering the short over here after closing out a short. So I guess they actually together add up to about the same. As far as the drawdown, though, which is the question. So this is able to go through the whole Trump fiasco. So when I say Trump fiasco, I'm going to come from the start of the bull market, 2023, in April, or whenever Trump was like, "Oh, we're gonna posting a tweet that like they're gonna make a strategic altcoin reserve and include Cardano in it." Cardano moves up 100%, and then like that was stupid. That like it shouldn't. And then it's down 100. Like we got the drawdown here was only 25% during that phase. The drawdown here is fantastic in comparison. You can see buy and hold on Cardano during this period is up 79% compared to 1100 with V4. So Trump is a mega problem. Trump has there's only one person that's ever been able to stop Renaissance Technologies, and it's Trump. And their algos, which arguably are like the best in the business, and I mean they're trading billions of dollars, and mostly 107. So and then sorry, I'll go back to that question in 1 second. Trump defeated Renaissance Technologies. Trump should not be allowed to tweet as he tweets. It's, I argue that Trump is the problem as well. The question is 108 is short right now, and 107 in my opinion is much better on the short side. I like it, but you have to go ahead and look at both of them and look over the last 12 months, look over the last 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and see what the winning percentage is, see what the drawdown is, see what the profitability is. 107 on the short side is really good. V4 it defeats everything. So we'll be there soon. It's going to be bright, bright, bright. Trump cost a lot. Yeah, it has been extraordinarily difficult. Look at this one day over here. I'm looking for a chart, and this chart is right here. I want to get into this fun stuff in 1 second with you. I mean, this is a Trump tweet right here. And markets just what? Maybe I'm not going to meet with Z. Boom. I mean, mega candle. And then obviously, this was a good one though. Buy, you know. Let's take a look at this. This question came up, and it was about this offering called the Destiny Tech 100. And I'm looking at this website, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to just go through everything with you. It's a portfolio right now of holding 22 companies, and they're looking to hold 100. And then I see SpaceX obviously making up more than 50% of the portfolio. OpenAI 7%. It's why I asked you, would you invest in OpenAI? And if like at the time of the IPO. And I personally imagine if they're able to IPO, that the value is going to be higher into the IPO than it is today. And I also imagine that OpenAI is actually a contender over the next 10 years, and that their valuation, are they going to stop at 1 trillion, right? What right now, how much is Nvidia valued at? And are they going to be the first $10 trillion company? We're going to see a $10 trillion company. Why? Because the denominator keeps getting devalued. And so back into this. I don't know what Revolt is. It's a large holding. It's 9%. So I look at it and I'm like, yeah, I don't. Maybe you guys are familiar with this company. I'm not familiar with it, and looking at their website, I don't know. Didn't I was wondering, well, maybe this, maybe the people behind Destiny, maybe they have some investment into Revolt, and this is a way for them to add liquidity to it. I don't know. I'm not familiar with this company. If anyone else, it's a very large holding. I mean, obviously, Stripe is a workhorse. That's a great company. I personally, this is like a VC play where the majority of these companies have very small allocations. For me, Discord's up there. For me, it would be like, yeah, SpaceX, like that's a great company I think to invest in. We'll talk about the risks in that 1 second. OpenAI, you know, it seems like an asymmetric bet. Over the next 10 years, it's either going to grow massively in valuation or it's going to be a big flop. The Cash App of Europe, it's a good bank. Okay. All right. Um So moving forward and looking forward, first thing I had myself SpaceX make, and we want to get into the chart, right? So first thing I'm like, is this real? This website looks like, something out of a Discord. Is it real? And yeah, you know, it's a legitimate offering, right? Close-end management investment fund under the U.S. Investment Act of 1940, designed to provide public investors exposure to a portfolio up to 100, blah 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 blah. And we have the ticker over here, DXYZ. And look over here. The first thing I notice, launch, the nice little ramp pattern forming over here. This is the election. And 50% of the ownership is, of course, SpaceX. And obviously, the election of Trump was very favorable for SpaceX. Regardless, I mean, it's my own personal view that the U.S. government needs SpaceX. NASA, you know, and there, so I wanted to look at the contracts, right? So update on SpaceX and its government contracts, and then you saw in April we saw them signing a 5.9 billion-dollar contract to 2029. Now we did have some drama between Trump and Elon, and at the height of the drama, Trump's like, we're just going to cancel those contracts. And there's no doubt Trump is a wild card. And that's one risk to SpaceX. But it seems like that has already come. And then the two have kind of made nicer with each other. And that doesn't seem like that is a risk that's going to be like materialize. If Trump is a loose cannon, it's definitely a risk, and if for any reason they were have to, a falling out, Trump and Musk, that could be a problem. I think that likely that the US government and NASA rely on SpaceX and more in the future. So, and you could look at it priced into the chart over here. And on the election, the mega move up, and then it's hitting another ramp pattern over here. And if you were just looking from a discretionary TA standpoint of when's the next time to get in, you'd be looking at like, it's trading at $23. I personally would prefer a fund that was able to invest in SpaceX and OpenAI personally. Now, it's like a VC fund in that it has some low allocations to some flyers over here, and that could be good. But I believe in the future of both OpenAI and SpaceX. And so anyway, it's trading at $24. It's traded a few times up in the $75 range. Do you think that after this election move and about a 50% retrace, it's a good place to take a position? Or do you think that we could still see a further move down back towards like the $15, $12 range in that? Of course, that could happen. That would be a 50% drawdown. Now, if you're taking a position in something like this, and honestly, what happens when say 12 months from now OpenAI goes public? Um, does the Destiny Fund then will it then hold those public shares? Is it taking some type of exit liquidity themselves, some type of profit taking? I don't know how that works personally. So I'm going very blind here. This is very rough. This is like the first moments in looking at this with y'all. But I would imagine that we could see, you know, even up to a 50% drawdown in here at any point in time going forward from where we are, unless you breaking out from over here. At that point, yeah, the risk is to the upside, and it becomes a different way to manage it. But until we break out from where we are today, I think it's an excellent point to begin taking a position. And what type of position would this be over your portfolio in the next like 10 years? Where do you see SpaceX and OpenAI? And I would say that, well, there's a large chance there's a significant chance that they could 10x from where they are today. And do I think that OpenAI is overvalued? I think it really depends on if they're able to pull off what they're pulling off, and they're probably they're probably gonna pull it off. Um, and I don't like them. For me, it's like they're like Microsoft. They are Microsoft, and they're like Microsoft, and they leave a bad taste in my mouth. And I still use the product. I won't download Atlas though, and you know. Anyway, um, if you were like, let's pretend that you believe this could 10x. Let's pretend that you believe that you're willing to take 5% of your overall portfolio to speculate on, and you decide that you want to speculate into what is primarily, I mean, this isn't even 50-50. It's 50% SpaceX. Seems like a good thing. I would prefer it were SpaceX, Tesla, and OpenAI. I feel like that, well, not even like a great basket for me on this is just the AI end, but it would be OpenAI, SpaceX. No, they're not on the AI end, they're in the space end, but there's going to be the robots up in space, and they're going to be building on the moon, and they're going to be building on Mars, and Tesla and and Alphabet. That's where I would be. Um, and I think that that would be better than this makeup of this current portfolio. But if you were going on this one, and this is the one you on, um, Comet, who runs Comet? Yeah. So we're talking a 5% allocation here of your overall portfolio. So of course Bitcoin feels like a lot safer bet. A lot safer bet. But I believe that 10 years from now, I think that there's a significant chance that this particular bet would more than 10x. So let's say 10x. And then if that 5% allocation became a 50% portion of your portfolio, what today, that's significant. That seems like, but I do think that that would mean like, you know 2.5% now, and then wait if you come down to 12%, and then if you get a breakout, obviously reallocate. So let's keep it on the watch. Let's keep focusing it over here. I think that this is one of the worthy places that potentially you'd want to look at. I would like to dive in more to these other holdings. I'm only familiar with Stripe, Discord, Plaid, um, and many of you are familiar with obviously Revolt, and that's it. Um, I think so. Perplexity is a great LLM. I think it's one of my favorites, and I don't know why I don't use it on a regular basis anymore. But it is one of my favorites. I agree strongly with that. So we are well hedged in this particular moment. And it feels right. And it seems right. And I don't like being short Bitcoin. I hope we get face planted. Let's take a look at Bitcoin though from a different perspective over here. So this would be a pocket for me. If we lose this area we've had recent touches into, if we were to lose this area, 87, then likely, yeah, then likely we have a hold your breath type a movement back into what would be the next pocket, or maybe even a little above it. Right now, I'm more along the lines of this was Jay Powell mostly given a bit of an uppercut. I think that they're cutting in December, and I think it was a lot of fluff and the right thing to do. I think Jay Powell did the right thing in like boo, just scaring the markets to like don't run away, and I think he played it well. But I think that they're going to cut. And I think that this offers up a nice moment, a nice breather, and that we're going to be able to resume out of this. And I wonder, right? So we got this one area of interest. If we break down below it, right? If we break down below here, we're closing this gap, and that brings us into a nice area over here. If we lose this, then we're coming into the pocket. That's what we'll be watching ahead. It looks good right now. We're fine. We're good. And we'll be back at it tomorrow. Everyone, lots of love. Thanks for being here. God bless you. I'll see you all back on the inside.